Welcome back, everybody, to the CloudZeroSports Podcast. It has been a long time coming, and we are thrilled, excited, stoked to be back to provide some great content for all you beautiful listeners. I am your host, Steven Sockel, alongside my co-host, Antonio Delaguzzo, a.k.a. Puggy. How are we doing today?
Great, man. It's really fun to be back. I missed this for a while. Thank you for having me back, as always, Been a long time coming, man.
Pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you back. And bringing back the podcast, it wouldn't be right if we didn't include our co-founder, Dante Strella. How are we doing, beautiful?
It's always a treat to be on here with you, Steve-O, and Puggy.
It's an honor to be in the presence of such high caliber humans to talk some sports today. I am very excited for the content that we have for you today. Today, we're going to be talking about good old March Madness. We got our picks, some little upsets, some sleepers. It's going to be a lot of fun talking about that. And NFL free agency, a lot of stuff has happened so far as of what is today, Monday, March 13th. So a lot of good's going to happen here today. But we're going to start out with our March Madness bracket and our champion. And Mr. Puggy, I'm curious to know, we've been talking a lot of March Madness together over the past couple of weeks. I think this is the most that I personally have paid attention to March Madness, maybe ever, honestly. So I like my picks this year, but I'm curious, who do you have winning it all?
Well, I got to say, this year actually might have been the hardest year to figure out who I thought would win this tournament. Like every year we have these constant super teams that we're always complaining about, saying, oh, this school has five stars coming in. They're all playing together, so on and so forth. But this year we kind of really don't have that like certain X factor of a team that has 5 new guys, all that were 5 stars going into this year. But right now I'm kind of riding the momentum train with teams. And right now Duke is red hot. I mean, everyone counted them out of the ACC tournament. They killed Pitt in their like second game, if I'm not mistaken. Granted, they did beat up on some teams that were hurt, but they played a great team basketball, and I have them winning it. I really have them going all the way, and I think there's going to be some upset wins that they're going to have, but we'll stay tuned for that.
Yeah, I wasn't too high on Duke entering this year. I thought the inexperience would get to them, and I have them in the Sweet 16. But I can understand
losing
and respect.
Yeah, Sweet 16. Excuse me.
Huh?
Who do you have them
Duke losing to?
Who do I have?
Purdue.
Yeah. Yeah, I have them beating Oral Roberts, beating Tennessee, and then losing to Purdue. I sat there and I thought about, who do I rather have, Purdue or Duke? I think Purdue's they pretty much have the same exact team as they had last year, minus Jay and Ivy, if I'm not mistaken. I know Zach Eddy's still.
Here's my argument. Derek Lively's going to stop Zach Eddy.
Yeah.
I'm serious. No, Derek Lively's playing his best basketball all year, and it's the right time. And I don't think Zach Eddy's that good.
Too. Yeah,
Filipowski's fantastic. They don't have the guards to match up with him. Dariq Whitehead's phenomenal off the bench. He's giving you at least 10 off the bench. Ryan Young knows his role by setting screens. I mean, Duke has the makeup for a right team, and this is like the first Duke team in like 25 years that actually plays defense.
Courtesy of John Shire.
Hey, John Shire, man, everyone was counting him out, trying to hold him to really high standards because he was losing at the beginning of the year. They're figuring out when it matters the most right now.
I think Duke can go deep into the tournament. I like their makeup of, they have Roach leading. I feel like Roach has really taken control these last couple of weeks. I like the makeup of old guys compared to their younger contributors. I do think, if I'm not big on Purdue, I think if you stop Edey, it's over for them. I don't think their guard, like you said, their guard play can't match up with Duke. I do think that they'll probably end up on a collision course, but I ultimately think Duke will probably end up taking it. I don't know how far Duke can go, and especially winning the national championship terms. I don't feel like they have that one guy that can take over the game, like a Brandon Smith on Alabama. But I do think they can certainly make a run.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree as well. I just the inexperience is what worries me, but that's just me personally. And if you can get beyond that, I don't blame you at all. And I think Duke to make it far is a good pick,
Yeah.
honestly.
Who's your champion, Steven?
So for me, I I bounce between a bunch of teams on who I want to win, but I felt like I kept coming back to the same answer every time that I kept thinking about it. And for me, that's the Alabama Crimson Tide. For me, Brandon Miller, even though there's the controversy surrounding him, he's I was gonna make a joke, but I realized it's probably not a good idea. But I'm gonna say he's really good. He's really good. But no, I know
Yeah.
I'm serious. Like I think he's like he's probably gonna enter the draft. I would assume, right?
Yeah, I think he'd be dumb not to. He's probably if Victor wasn't there when Bio, whatever his name is,
When
Mhm.
Benyama,
when Benyama, if he wasn't there, I think he'd be the number one pick.
Oh, I beg to differ, but I do
What
I
about
agree.
agree.
Scoot?
I agree. What's that?
Scoot
I
Henderson.
just think everybody loves that European prospect.
Yeah, no,
That's what
I
everybody
agree
every
though.
year there's one.
I think
Mhm.
Brandon Miller has probably the best NBA ready body out of anyone going to this draft this year.
I'm with Steven with Alabama. I think I
Tragic.
think they're the clear favorite here just because of how good Brandon Miller is, and honestly even the whole team around him.
Mhm.
Just that run through the SEC tournament. I mean, they got shoot, who do they play in the semis?
I
Give them
know
a
they
run
beat
for
A
their
and
money.
M.
That was the championship. Whoever they
Yeah,
played in the semis, gave them a punch in the mouth.
Missouri.
And Missouri, was it Missouri? Yes,
I think.
Missouri.
Mhm.
Missouri, they were up. Bama was up 15. Missouri came fighting back, punched them in the mouth, and then Alabama ultimately fought back and won the game by I think 10 or 12 points there.
Well, this
Yeah,
is my
11.
argument.
Mhm.
I definitely
11.
agree with you. I do think Alabama's phenomenal, but to not like negate your point, Missouri's defense is probably one of the worst defenses in the whole like of college basketball. To be fair,
I know offense is their specialty.
offense has always been Missouri's specialty, but like you are right though, they did give them a run for their money.
I just think, and I just think their shooting's excellent. They, like I said, the fact that they got punched in the mouth and they just came back and then ultimately controlled the whole game yesterday against a Texas A&M team who was coming off a pretty big win into the championship. I think that they definitely have the tools, and especially Brandon Miller. I mean, he reminds me of Paul George. I really think he's a Paul George-esque player, has the athleticism, has the shooting ability, has the off the ball skills, has the handling to be able to get to the lane and get to his spot. And I also do like their point guard. Forget his name,
Sears.
but yeah, and they're also very good. So I really like Alabama.
Yeah, I do too. And with everything going on surrounding them, you know, they still were able to get through the adversity, win the SEC tournament, not go flat. And to me, I think that's a big thing because March is going to test you like nothing. Like the SEC tournament, yeah, it's going to test you, but March is a whole nother breed. March Madness is crazy. For me, I bounce between Kansas maybe going back to back. I thought about Houston, but I'm not too confident after what I saw against Memphis.
Yeah, it
I
was
thought
bad.
about Marquette. I thought about Purdue, but Penn State pushed them to the limit. There was a lot of teams that I thought could do it.
Yeah.
But I just always came back to Alabama when I really sat down and thought about it. And Brandon Miller, I think, is the main reason that
I
they're
feel like
doing
there's
as well as they
no,
are.
I feel like there's no I feel like he's the top dog in the NCAA right now. I
Oh,
mean,
Mhm.
he is.
you have Jalen Wilson on Kansas, but to me, there's just something off about Kansas. I don't know what it is.
Yeah,
I think they don't have that ball controlling point guard on the
They don't.
team.
They
I
don't.
think with Houston, I agree with Steven. I would think Houston could do it, but that with them losing Sesser until at least the Sweet 16, I believe I saw. I think that hurts them. If they're able to get to the 16, then they definitely have a shot. But I mean, what we saw yesterday from them, I mean, Memphis was came out and blew the doors off them, and they didn't look back. I mean, they brought it to
Mhm.
within 5 with about probably 7 minutes to go, but they just kept extending it, and ultimately, Memphis ended up winning. I do think Houston's still a good team. I just don't.
Mhm.
I don't see it from them without Sesser. I mean, that's 17 points a game you have to replace, and the fact that their offense didn't move without him. They were just taking contested threes the whole time, and granted, that's their specialty, but ultimately, that's not going to win you a game in March.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Not the recipe.
Yeah, for Purdue, like that side, the left side, the south and the east side of the bracket, I just like I had such a hard time, like I'm being like, oh, I can see this happening, I can see this happening. Like every single time I picked Purdue, I was like, I could see Memphis beating them, I could see Duke beating them, and then eventually I have Marquette beating them, but I could easily see them going down. Like when we were watching the Big Ten championship yesterday, I mean, if they contained Eddie, you could kind of see them
Correct.
getting a little flustered. And
Yeah.
then Penn State, I forget exactly what they shot from 3, but it wasn't great. So if they were hitting their shots, I mean, they only lost by what, 2?
2. And their
If-
best
if-
guard fouled out with 3 minutes to go in the game.
Right. So like, I don't think Purdue won the Big Ten, but I don't know how confident I am in them, even though I have them in the Elite Eight. But it's so close for me. It's
This is
just so
another thing.
close.
Big Ten teams never really do well in the tournament, and that's just a known thing.
Yep.
They don't tend to last long. So, granted, you have those teams that make the Elite Eight almost. You have like maybe one make the Elite Eight from the Big Ten, but like I said, like I have them losing because I just don't think they have it within them to actually make it far. Because you take out Eddie, what else? Like, who are you to be afraid of on that team? Their guards don't hit big time shots when it matters at the end of the game. I mean, heck, the one guard missed 3 free throws at the end of the game. One of them being to put them up 3, which would have made them a bigger possession game.
Right. And I remember watching, I'm like, they could tell they were flustered because Penn State went on a crazy run at the end there.
Yeah.
I could just sense in their body language. They were like, what's going on here? Eddie, do something. It's like, and then you could just tell when he took that last free throw, he made the first one, but when he took that second one, you could just tell that he's like, I got to make this. I got to make this. I got to make this. And he was in his own head.
Yeah.
But I mean, he got away with it because that final possession from Penn State was one of the worst things I ever saw in my entire life.
I agree.
And that was
I
terrible.
agree.
That was
I don't
so
know.
bad. I don't know
what
why you
goes on
don't just
with
like
that.
have. I don't know why you just don't have someone run right behind Eddie and just give him a bounce pass. But I'm not the coach.
I mean, I'm not either. I mean, I don't know if I could take the pressure, but I don't know if that's what I would
Then
have
again, though,
drawn up.
If I'm the inbounder and I have a 7'4" guy in front of me, I'd probably be like stressing to find someone open.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Bama. I do have Penn State winning a game. I have them beat
So do I.
A&M.
So did I.
If I didn't say from the second that Penn State, I knew Penn State was going to make it, I was going to pick them for win a game, I might have taken A&M, but I'm going to be biased here. But I do think there is a world in which Penn State can beat them. I really do.
I think Penn State's playing some of their best basketball they could play.
They
right
are.
now.
They are.
They really are.
And I think A&M is as well, except for their
Well,
loss against
A&M's
Bama,
lost
but
3 out
Bama's
of their last
Bama.
5 games. They've lost like 3 big games recently. So
They still got to the final.
Yeah.
I still think there's cause to believe in them if you want to take them over Penn State, but
I'm probably going to ride Penn State too. I think they're like Puggy just said, they're too hot. I mean, they're just playing excellent basketball. Even when they were, I believe it was about 3 minutes left when they began the run. Like I remember I told my brother, I said they're at least gonna cover the spread, and the spread was 7.5. And obviously they did just that. And ultimately, if it wasn't for a horrible inbound call, they might have actually won the game.
Good teams win, great teams cover. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. That's the motto.
That's what the Lions did, baby.
Sir.
That's what the Lions did.
This is a real question. Who do you all have in your Final Four?
So for me, I got Bama. Obviously, I said I had Marquette. Then the right side of the bracket, Midwest and the West region. I just I'm looking at these teams over here on this side, and there's a big part of me that wanted to put Penn State in the Final Four, but I knew I couldn't do that. I just knew that wouldn't be the smartest thing I could do. But I had Kansas. There's a part of me that wanted to pick Arkansas, and I feel like I can look back at this podcast, and if Arkansas wins, I'm going to be like, yeah, I saw that coming. But I think the experience of Kansas having pretty much everybody back from last year, I put them in the final against Bama, but I think Bama and Brandon Miller could take them down, pretty much take down whoever's on that side of the bracket, honestly. As for my other Final Four opponent, I have Miami. Miami, yeah, I can't. This side of the bracket just it didn't really blow me away, honestly. Like no one really jumped out at me.
I agree.
Maybe Houston could be like if you put Houston there, I wouldn't blame you.
If Houston gets their guard back, that's what could change everything. But,
so Miami and Houston,
but they have a tough road for that to happen.
They do. They really do. I mean, they have the Iowa-Auburn winner, and I have Auburn upsetting Iowa, personally. I mean, Auburn's home, and the 8-9 game, I just think Auburn's not a 9 seed, but that's for another day.
Yeah, I picked Iowa, and I'm not sure why I did, honestly, in hindsight.
And whoever wins that, I mean, they're going to either see Miami or Indiana. I mean,
I like Indiana to go to the 16.
Really?
I respect that. I can respect that. Yeah.
I can respect
I'm saying that is this side of the bracket. It's like I feel like anything could happen. I can see Coleman in the Final Four.
Oh,
I from this side, I have Texas.
I respect that too. Yeah, I have them in the Elite Eight.
I think Texas is playing a lot of good basketball right now. I like their big play. I like Carr. I forget his first name. Is it
Anthony Carr?
Anthony Carr. It might be Anthony Carr. But he transferred from Minnesota. Played for
Marcus
Pitino's
Carr.
Marcus Carr played for Pitino's son in Minnesota. Transferred to Texas. Last couple of years, I mean, they've been up and down. Finally, with Chris Beard going out in the beginning of the year, and this new interim coach coming in, they just play harder. I feel like they play harder, they play smarter, and just their ability to shut down Kansas twice in a week?
Yeah.
That's to me, that's pretty impressive. And I think they're flying under the radar enough where, teams or people aren't really kind of thinking about them. And I think with Marcus Carr, and like I said, I like their two bigs they got. I think they can make a run.
Mm-hmm. No, and I respect that. Like I said, this side of the bracket, I feel like anything could happen. For me, for Miami, I like Miller and Wong. I think that's a nice backcourt duo that they have. And then like you said with Sesser, will he be back for the Sweet 16? I mean, in my bracket, Miami plays Houston in the Sweet 16. If he's not back,
that's a whole different story. That's a whole different
story. Yeah.
Now,
if he's him coming back too, I mean, he's gonna have some rust. Like
he will have some rust.
Is he gonna drop? Yeah. Is he gonna drop 17? That his average? Is he gonna do that? I don't know.
Hard.
It's hard to say. That's why that side, the Midwest West side of the bracket, to me is I don't know. I could see anything happening. I feel like the left side's a lot harder because a lot of the teams that I felt like I wanted to pick, like Bama, part of me wanted to pick Creighton. I know I was talking to Puggy about that. He was against my
well, actually, pick. You'd be happy with this. I have Creighton like making round of 32 with Baylor and beating Baylor.
So do I.
I think so. Baylor's mock-up of this team is not what a Baylor team we expect of. When I think of Baylor every year, I'm thinking of a team that's playing you 94 feet, great defense, having low-scoring games. It's not really the Baylor we're seeing this year. This year, we're seeing a really high-scoring Baylor team, not really keeping teams below what they normally go for, which is like the 60 mark. They're letting teams score 70. They're not going to win, in my opinion. I just don't think they're the Baylor we know of. Don't get me wrong, Keontae George is a phenomenal player, but one player can't take down 5 guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's like, to me, that's the same story with Kentucky. I like Kentucky over Providence, but Oscar Tshiebwe is just one guy, and there really isn't anybody else on Kentucky that really speaks to me. And ultimately, they lost in the first round for a reason last year. I do think they're going to be Providence. I think Calipari is just a better coach. But yeah, no, I agree with that. Who's the guy who transferred from Kentucky to Providence? I forget his name now. Hopkins,
yes.
Yeah, that should be an interesting game. I feel like that entire
That's
side
just
of the
to me.
bracket.
That's a storyline game. That's a storyline game.
Storyline. Yeah, that's just what that narrative is.
Yeah.
Mhm. And same thing with the Oral Roberts and Duke thing too.
Correct.
That is definitely a storyline thing.
Yeah.
Now, this leads me to my next question. Do you guys have any big upsets happening? Steve, I'll let you go first, actually.
I do. I do.
Steven's a little antsy over there. No, Steven's a little antsy.
I want to hear Dante. I want to hear Dante. Mine's pretty big. I have a 15 winning.
Do you really?
Yeah,
sickening.
I have. Hold on, I'm gonna pull it up here.
Well,
I have the Gales of Iona taking down the UConn Huskies.
Dante, you're a smart man. I 100% agree with you. I mean, Rick Pitino's a phenomenal coach.
Let me guess, Steven. You have UNC Asheville over UCLA?
He does.
Yes, I do, man. Yes, I do.
That's terrible. That is actually terrible.
Don't sleep on Drew Pember, bud.
But that's
dude. The UCLA team have been around for almost 4 years together. And yes, they have one guy who got his Achilles injury, which he was a big part of. Jalen Clark was a big part of that team. But the rest of the starting five are all seniors together for a reason. And they basically made it at least the Elite Eight every year together. They're gonna make it out of the first round.
Is good, man. But that UNC Asheville, I liked them like before I knew the matchup. I was like, this could be like that Cinderella team. I only have them winning one game, but all it takes are a good 3-point shooting team.
They are.
Drew Pember is pretty good.
Oh my God,
too.
no.
They don't have Jalen Clark. I'm not saying UCLA is a bad team. I think they're good. And if you have them going far, I understand and respect that. But it only takes one game. And Drew Pember's like that, man.
Drew Pember's not like that. But going back to the more important upset, Dante, you were right about Iona taking down UConn. 100%.
Yep. I also have VCU St. Mary's.
I would 100% agree.
So do I.
I don't think St. Mary's can keep up with VCU's full court pressure the whole game and how they rebound the ball.
Yeah, I think seeding's a little messed up there. I don't know if VCU should be a 12, but the 12-5. I mean, there's one every year. I think that's probably going to be the one. It is, in my opinion. But
I 100% agree.
Yeah, no, I agree completely too. I think VCU is playing good ball right now. And honestly, I don't know much about St. Mary's, so I just feel like for me it was an easy pick.
Starting five's all white, I'm pretty sure.
Fair enough. That's all you need to know then, right?
Yeah.
Here's another upset I have though.
Good fundamental team, Steven.
Exactly. Charleston over San Diego State.
Really?
That's my upset. I have two 12-5 upsets.
I think I have one.
I just think I don't know. I think San Diego State relies way too much on shooting the three. Charleston's playing great team basketball. I mean, they've been the story of the whole year, and I kind of ride with it. They know how to push the tempo of the ball. They know how to play. They know how to turn any game into their tempo game, which is huge in basketball. So I'm riding with them.
I think, yeah, I agree. I'm on them too. I just, for different reasons, I guess. I just don't believe in San Diego State. I think every year they have a great team that's supposed to go deep, and that just never seems to come to fruition. I think. Especially like you said, the tempo with Charleston and their offense in general, and their defense isn't shabby either.
It's not that bad.
No, it's not that bad where they can put up points and defend, and ultimately I don't think San Diego State's just so it's the same story every year.
Yeah,
same story every year.
I agree. Steve, do you have another upset?
I had. Well, I guess with the way you guys are talking, I had San Diego State in the Sweet 16.
That's ridiculous.
I guess I felt
you have them beating Virginia.
No. How do you not understand college basketball? Whichever team has a better defense always wins. Virginia makes a living off of defense.
Yeah, but what about Furman, man?
People are saying
he's at VCU.
That's the upset.
No, not Christian Furman, the college.
Oh, no. Okay. Furman, they are the most they should not be a Cinderella story ever. Ever. No.
Close to half their shots are 3-pointers.
Yeah. If they don't shoot the three well, they're not winning. And I
I'm
promise
banking on
you,
doing it once.
Virginia's coach is
all
going
I
to go
need.
in that game making sure no one shoots a three. I promise you that.
I know this is irrelevant and it doesn't correlate at all, but I feel like saying it. I'm sure that's what the coach said in 2019 when we got to beat UMBC guys, and then they didn't. I know it doesn't correlate at all, but I felt like saying it because it helps my case. So
Furman's not winning it. Promise you.
I only have them winning one game. Only one. That's I want to get a 13-4 upset in there. And I was been convinced by the internet gurus that Furman.
Your 13-4 upset should be Iona against UConn, okay? That should be your 13-4.
I thought you liked UConn, man. What happened?
Looking more into it, UConn relies way too much on one guy. Rick Pitino, he's a better coach, in my opinion. He's been around the game for way too long to lose that
Ricky
game.
P, baby.
He's a great coach. Hey, I think there's a lot of firings happening in the NCAA. I think after this year's done, he's going to St. John's. I think he's going to St. John's after this year.
He needs to go back to Louisville.
Kenny Payne ain't cutting it.
No, sure isn't. Although he did just get a 5-star, but
he did just get a 5-star, 7'1" center. But give the guy at least another 2-3 years. I mean,
next
I think
80, baby.
Also, Steve, I would not be mad at you if you changed to Arkansas, make it to Final Four. That is the right choice.
Wants to, man.
Dude, they have a dominant power forward and center down there. The twins or the brothers.
They have a
really
great good team, man. They could easily make a Final
I think this
Four
is the
run.
year that Musselman actually makes the Final Four.
I'm gonna stick with Kansas because that's what I wrote down, and I don't like to, and unless someone does something like he gets hurt, like a guy gets hurt in practice or something, and that changes everything, obviously. But I'll stick with it. But I understand the Arkansas pick. I really do. So, gentlemen, I think we did a good job covering everything. Is there any other big matchups that you want to talk about?
Don't be shocked if Princeton gives Arizona.
Maybe what?
I have Arizona winning, but don't be shocked if Princeton gives Arizona a run for their money. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying.
What about this Pitt? What about this Pitt Iowa State matchup if Pitt wins?
I'm gonna ride with Pitt if they win, but it's so hard to tell if Pitt's gonna win. I mean, their last game was a blowout. I mean, who knows what the morale of that team is right now?
I will say this. Ever since they added this first 4 in thing, one of these 11 seeds, I don't know who, it depends, but one of them has always made it to the round of 32 every time, at least one. So whether that's Pitt, Mississippi State, Arizona State, or Nevada, in history, one of them has always made to the round of 32. And I could see it being, Pitt or even Mississippi State.
I think if Pitt wins, Pitt will actually win the game. But if Mississippi State does, I really don't count on them to win it.
Just want to make sure no one has Texas Southern going far.
No,
not this year.
Not this year.
Yeah, maybe next year. Maybe next year when they get above 500, they
also
they'll go far.
I do not buy the Louisiana hype. All I'm saying, I do not buy into that. I think Tennessee plays better basketball, 10 times better basketball than Louisiana does.
Why does everyone hate Tennessee? Because I see you either love them or you hate them. I can't.
They choke every year. They always choke every year. That's why. They do tend to choke. But they play better defense. And I ride and die with teams who can play defense.
Fair enough. Anything else you want to add, Dante?
I think I'm good, man.
All right, sounds good. So let's shift over to some NFL talk. So before we get into free agency, I think we should talk about the Bears trading back with the Panthers for that number 1 overall pick. So Dante, let me ask you, what is your opinion on from the Bears perspective and from the Panthers perspective?
I mean, Panthers perspective, they need their guy. I mean, that's what obviously everybody holds Frank Reich in very high regards, and ultimately what his downfall was in Indianapolis. He never had his guy, he never had a quarterback, and he traded that first for Carson Wentz, and then Irsay never forgave him for that. So clearly he's learned from his mistakes. I think that's number 1 on the Panther side of things. I think that they're obviously going to go get. I personally think they're going to get Stroud. I don't think you trade up for Richardson, and I think Bryce Young's going to fall a little bit, potentially to the Texans. But I think if you're the Panthers and Texans right now, you can't afford to take Richardson. I think Richardson is someone who could fall, not fall, but go. He could be the third quarterback off the board. I think teams are falling in love with Richardson too much, but that's another subject. Anyway, I think they're going to go get Stroud. I think he's the most pro-ready quarterback right now. And I think ultimately, I think it was a good pick. A good trade for the Panthers for both sides, honestly. Bears already had their quarterback. They didn't need they have Justin Fields. They didn't need a quarterback. They needed to get draft capital because they have a lot of other holes on that offense. Specifically the offensive line. But for both sides, I think it was a great trade. They got DJ Moore and they got the ninth overall pick too?
Ninth overall pick.
Ninth overall pick.
And then the Niners second round pick.
And
that's
huge.
Correct. The second round pick is very, very big. I think this is a deeper draft too. So they're able to get an offensive lineman because obviously they need one pretty bad. But yeah,
Skoronski maybe.
That's my opinion on it. Yeah. I saw the dude from Ohio State, the tackle. Everybody is talking about him moving up. But he could potentially go to them. Kind of just depends on how the draft shakes up. I think there's going to be a lot of trading. We even hear things of the Bears trying to move back up, which I'm not really, too certain with. Maybe we'll trade Chase Claypool with how valuable he is.
Yeah, the Steelers got a what would be the word, like a fake first round pick out of that in a way because they're picking 32.
Dude, yeah, it's amazing. I would honestly even like to see them trade up or even trade down because they have a lot of holes as well.
Mm-hmm.
If their tackle or their cornerbacks isn't on the board, then we'll see. But yeah, that's my opinion on the Bears Panthers trade.
Mm-hmm. All right, I got my thoughts too, but Puggy, I want to hear yours first.
I think it was a great trade for both teams. With how the market is per se with trading, that's kind of what the number one overall pick is worth. Clearly the Panthers are in a situation where it's like they're not anywhere near win now, but they need their guy, like Dante said. And with Frank Reich, like he said, he needs his guy. So kind of getting rid of DJ Moore helps because it's like the reset. DJ Moore's been there for a while. They got rid of McCaffrey last year. This is like finally them admitting we need to reset the whole team and being able to get their guy this year to start it is a great way. Who doesn't want to start rebuilding a team with their quarterback? Not Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Joe Schmo. It's perfect. But when it comes to the Bears,
Walker, man, you weren't a fan?
No. But that's another day. But on the Bears perspective, I actually think this is great for them. Like Dante said, they have a lot of holes to fill. And if I'm the Bears GM, I actually trade that 9th pick back again. Like Dante said, this is a deep draft. Why not try to get like another like lower first round pick, another second round pick, or maybe even a future first round pick, and do kind of what a lot of these other teams are doing: stock up on draft picks, and then when you are close to that win now state, trade those picks to get that guy you need. The Eagles did with AJ Brown, the Dolphins did with the Tyreek Hill. Why not take the same formula? It clearly is working. The Eagles did just make the Super Bowl, so I think overall it was a great trade for both ends.
Yeah, I also agree. I think it's a great trade for both ends. From the Bears' perspective, you guys pretty much nailed it on the head. I don't want to say the same thing over and over again, but I think the most critical part of that was that you got DJ Moore. You got Justin Fields, a certified WR1 who can get the job done, who's still pretty young. He's only 26 or so?
Roughly, yeah.
He's in his prime. The Bears had the entire receiving core had the least amount of combined receiving yards in the entire league last year. And now you go out and get DJ Moore, who is a 1,000-yard guy. You get, I think you said, Puggy, that they should trade back. I don't know. I guess it depends on who's available, but if Skoronski's there, I'd take him because you got to protect Fields.
That was the biggest issue. That's why he turned into a running back because he couldn't. Yeah, didn't have time to pass.
That's fair.
And for the Panthers, they have their franchise left tackle, Iquanu. And he looked great last year, and he only got better as time went on. So now, from the Panthers' perspective, I mean, if that's a price you got to pay to trade up, that's got to be done. I mean, that's what happens when there are 4 quarterbacks that have great upsides. Like last year, who's trading up for the first round pick? Are you trading up for Kenny Pickett? I mean, Desmond Ridder. I mean, no
Yes.
disrespect to those guys.
Yes,
but
Kenny Pickett is him.
No, he's not.
I-
He's far from him.
You'll see.
The best player in Steelers history is Ryan Switzer, right? Like, no.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Puggy gets it. Puggy gets it.
Lord.
And then their second best player is Cam's son, and they let him walk. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing over there, man. But in all seriousness, that's the price you have to pay to move up in a QB heavy draft. Because with Richardson, he's combine darling. I think he has great pocket awareness for the team he was surrounded with. I think his accuracy could be an issue. I think his decision making be an issue, but I think you can work on all that. Will Levis, big arm, the next Josh Allen, of course, because that's what we do when we see a tall white quarterback with a big arm. CJ Stroud, I do agree with you, Dante. I think he's the most NFL ready quarterback who can help a team win right now. And I think Bryce Young has good intangibles, but the size is definitely a question. But I don't think it's a crazy deterrent. I think he'll still go in the top 10. I think all these guys will go in the top 10. I think the bidding war I think someone is going to be calling up Arizona probably to see if they can trade up to get that pick. But for the Panthers, I think it was a smart move. You get the guy that you want. I know Frank Reich said, we have a bunch of possibilities. We can look. To me, I feel like they know who they want, or else they wouldn't have done that. Or at least they have 2 guys and they're trying to narrow it down. And they want to be able to make sure they have their pick. I think it's Richardson. I think he's the closest thing to Cam Newton. Cam Newton obviously served them very well. I'm not saying he is Cam Newton, but I think his
mock-up and build.
His build. Yes, thank you. His build, I think there's a lot to work with. Yes, he's raw, but I don't think the Panthers, I mean, you still have to figure out the receiver situation because now he doesn't have someone to throw to. McCaffrey's gone, but I do think the offensive line is underrated in Carolina. And Frank Reich is a great coach, and he got a rough go at it in Indy. And I think whoever he takes, I think the Panthers are going to be good in the future.
I think Richardson is this year's Malik Willis, but 10 times better.
Yeah,
honestly.
what the hype that Malik Willis got last year should have went. Well, I mean, it is going towards Anthony Richardson now, but I never really understood the Willis hype last year. Richardson, I can understand. I feel like there are a lot of intangibles and raw talent there to work with Anthony Richardson.
Agreed.
But I do think CJ Stroud is the most complete guy, and I think he could definitely help them as well, like right now. But I don't think the Panthers want to win right now. I know that doesn't really make sense because Stroud's good as well. But I feel like they might see something bigger in Richardson to leapfrog the potential of CJ Stroud, in my opinion.
You're wrong, man, but that's fine.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. So let's talk about some of these free agent signings here today. Let's start with the Cam Sutton one, since I threw a joking dig at the Steelers there. But in all seriousness, what do you think about the Cam Sutton departure, and what do you think he can bring to the Lions, Dante?
I mean, I think we discussed it. It's just Pat Pete is the same player. I think they ended up getting Peterson for cheaper. I mean, ultimately, Pat Peterson is 32 years old and Cam Sutton is 28. But they were both at this point in their careers. I feel like they're both the same. Cam Sutton probably has a slight edge, which is why he got more money and more guaranteed money. I do like the move for the Lions just to bolster the secondary a little bit. However, to me, it's not a move that's going to put them over the edge. Put them over the edge. I don't think he's going to come in and be able to lock down a side of the field.
No.
I think he'll come in, be serviceable, and not give up the big play. And he'll make a couple plays, which is pretty good for, like I said, pretty good value on his price tag. If I had to choose between Patrick Peterson and Cam Sutton, I would probably choose Cam Sutton. Honestly, I don't think Patrick Peterson. I know he had 5 interceptions last year, but I watched a lot of Vikings film and I saw him get burnt quite a bit. And I know that Cam Sutton just fit in their defense a little bit better, but ultimately the Steelers value edge rushers and defensive line and front seven over secondary because the whole design of the defense is a zone blitz scheme. They get to the quarterback first, you don't have to cover for that long, and which means you don't need that much elite talent on the outside. So Lions wise, they got fried last year in the secondary, so I understand the move. Makes you wonder a little bit why didn't they go after Ramsey, especially if that was the price tag that they were. If the Ramsey was price tag was that's what it was, but ultimately they're going to give $33 million to Cam Sutton, then they can.
Yeah, I think it's 3 years, 33 to give 22 guaranteed. So they could cut him after 2 years if he's not that great. I do wonder why they were so hesitant, to go for Ramsey. Maybe maybe they did make the call. How do we know for sure? I thought maybe it'd be the money, but you got Cam Sutton for like what, 7-8 million less, which makes me think like, was really a third rounder too much to ask? So I'm sure there's an answer that we don't know as to why they didn't go after Jalen Ramsey. But as far as Cam Sutton is concerned, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I'm a Cam Sutton expert. Obviously, you know more about him than I do. From what I've seen online, there seems to be a lot of positive reactions around him.
He was the best corner on the team this year. There's no doubt about that. This year, I would say he was very, very good. He did play well for that contract. The year before, though, there were a lot of blown assignments. Now, that might come down to the coaching. That might come down to whatever it might be, but he did have a really good year in 22. So I will say that's most likely why he got the bigger contract, because last year I think he played for less than 10 million, I want to say, or around there. For the Steelers, I believe they only signed him like a 1-year deal, obviously. So I think he'll definitely add some stability. But I don't really see him obviously being the long-term answer at cornerback for the Lions.
No, probably not. He'll probably be CB2. I really wonder what the Lions are going to do, and for the rest of free agency and the draft, because they get those 2 picks to work with. And I think pretty much anything they do, I could justify them doing it, but I won't we talk about draft picks another day. Let's talk about another signing here. Let's talk about Jimmy G to the Raiders. Puggy, what's your opinion on that move?
I'm not really a big Jimmy G fan per se, and I just don't really think the Raiders are going the right direction. Like, they kind of had to make this type of trade because I don't think drafting a quarterback would have been the smartest move. And I really don't think they're going to draft a quarterback now with getting Jimmy G and with paying Devontae Adams this past summer. You kind of have to make moves that put you in the win now scenario. Derek Carr clearly wasn't their quarterback, so they had to get rid of him. Getting Jimmy G gives you experience, the hell of Devontae Adams, and then you could actually use that pick towards an offensive lineman. Or I'm big on the whole trading back. Trade back and get assets that help you.
Dante, what's your opinion on the Jimmy G thing? I don't know what the Raiders are their goal is, to be honest.
What are you supposed to do? You got a new head coach, and there now was a new head coach now in the second year. Trade away the starting quarterback. You're not going to go get a rookie and start him right away. You needed that placeholder, and this is where I could see Richardson going. Richardson or Levis to the Raiders, just because I don't think Richardson and Levis is going to come in and start right away. To your point with the Panthers that they don't want to win now, well, who's going to start for them? Who do they have? They're going to start PJ Walker?
No. I think they're going to throw whoever they get right into the fire and just.
So you think they're going to put Anthony Richardson there?
Well, maybe not immediately, but he will be starting by. If the Panthers take Richardson, he will be starting by week 6, probably.
I'll say this: whoever they draft will be starting at least by week 6, no matter who it is.
Yeah, for sure. I just think the Raiders I think Jimmy G is just that bridge, just like how
Mhm.
he was with Lance and how him not really Purdy started over him, but with Lance, he's just that bridge. He's that guy who's gonna come in win you games, and then hopefully teach the younger quarterbacks a little bit more. And it's something that where McDaniels can develop his guy and control the offense more. There's always been rumors and that power struggle between him and Brady up in New England. So now it's finally his team, so he gets to go get his guy. Um, I think there's already enough talent around them where they can win. Now, at least make the playoffs. I mean, you have Waller and Devontae Adams, Hunter Renfro. You have all the offensive weapons you can ask for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All the offensive weapons you can ask for. At this point, the question marks are on defense, where I don't really think this is a very defensive draft. I feel like it's more on the offensive side of the ball. So I don't really think you need to use a top 10 with top 10, right? Top 10
I think
pick.
they're picking
Yeah.
7.
They are
You-
7.
Okay. Yeah, so I don't really think you need to use a top 10 pick on a defender. Oh, sorry, on a offensive player. You could, like you said, Puggy said, trade down, or I would personally, if I were them, I would probably take a quarterback, whether it be Richardson. I do like Richardson over Levis, but I'd rather obviously have Stroud or Young, but obviously they're not going to follow them. So if I were him, I'd probably pick Richardson.
My thing with the QBs, I don't know if there's gonna if the QB is gonna make it to them. Honestly,
You're right. They probably would have to trade up.
they probably have to trade up, and I don't know if they have Jimmy G. Do they really want to do that? If they're, what I mean, maybe they believe Jimmy G can take them to the next level, and they could take like a Miles Murphy or Tyree Wilson at
I actually
7.
do think there's
But
some
what do
really
you-
big studs defensively in this draft, in the higher end per se.
I like the edge. I like the top. I like
The guy from
Anderson,
Bama is really good.
Wilson. Yeah, Will Anderson, Jalen Carter, Miles Murphy, Tyree
Carter's
Wilson.
not going in the top 10.
You don't think Carter's going to go in the top 10?
A lot of mock drafts have him going to Arizona.
You
With-
think that incident's enough to knock him out of the top 10?
Yeah.
Really?
If you're 100%. If you're ultimately though, it's going to come down to their due diligence with their pre-draft process. But if I'm a top 10 team right now and I'm looking and I need to change a culture, obviously you're in the top 10 for a reason. And taking a guy who can potentially be on his way to prison or other, ultimate punishments. To me, that's a problem. And I don't know if I want to waste a top 10 pick on that. Now, ultimately, he is a very good player, but like I said, depends on the due diligence of the pre-draft process.
I think
what they dive into.
I think a lot of his stock will, because they're going to have the teams are going to ask him what happened, and depending on how he responds, to that, whether he's like, it's not my fault or whatever, however he responds, right, that will determine if a team's like, okay, all right, I get it, I think we can take the risk, or like, nah, no, I don't know, I don't want a part of that. So depending on his reaction to how he answers the question, I think will determine his draft stock, which we probably will never really find out. I mean, maybe we will, but that's for the teams to know and us to speculate.
True.
To me, though, back to the Raiders. I mean, what are you supposed to do though? Wait till next year?
You
And then
can't.
you're picking. Maybe you have 10 wins. Then what are you going to do?
Well, maybe if you have 10 wins, you still like Jimmy G and you think he can get the job done if you surround him with more talent.
Jimmy G's not getting any younger though.
Let's say, brother, let's be honest. Like, are you serious? How many times are we going to give the same? It's the same prototype quarterback.
I know.
It's Andy Dalton. It's Derek Carr. It's all these just above average guys. There's a reason Jimmy Garoppolo, they didn't win the Super Bowl. He missed the biggest throw of his life.
Yeah.
And there's a reason he's not on the Niners anymore.
No, I know. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
The Raiders would be dumb not to take a quarterback.
I agree. I was going to have them taking a quarterback, like when we're eventually going to do a mock draft for the podcast, right? I was going to have them mocking up to a trade with Arizona and taking a quarterback.
I don't think the Jimmy G thing was smart overall. I really don't. I think that was wasted cap.
I mean,
what are you
like
supposed to
Dante
do?
said, what do you do? Yeah, what do you do?
As a second-year head coach, you can't just who's their backups. They lost Stidham. I don't even know who their backup is at this point.
I hate to say it, but I think pretty sure Baker Mayfield's still out there. I mean, he's not the greatest, but he's serviceable.
What's the difference?
He's gonna be cheaper. It's cheaper. That man went from being the number 1 overall pick to getting cut and barely making a team, basically.
Yeah, but I don't think there's a difference in terms of price tag at that point. I mean, you're only signing him. What was the deal? 2 years
I think it was 3, no?
for Jimmy?
3 years.
3.
I think it was 3 years, 67, 34 guarantee.
I mean,
3 years, 72, 24 guaranteed.
Even better. I don't know. To me, the Steelers got Mitch for 2 for 15 last year.
That was
And
great.
Jimmy G is a much
overpay.
Correct. And Jimmy G is a much better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think Garoppolo is the right move. I like him as a serviceable quarterback. I don't think he's ever going to win anything, but he's a serviceable quarterback who's proven that he can win games, just not the big one.
I can agree.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's talk about one more since we're talking for a long time here. Let's talk about Javon Hargrave to the 49ers. Overpay, really?
Overpay.
Okay. If I was telling my brother when I got home from work, I said, if I were an Eagles fan, I would be relieved. Like imagine if they gave him that. They wouldn't be able to sign anybody for years.
Yeah.
He's not, after drafting Jordan Davis for the Eagles specifically, Javon Hargrave's not worth 80. I think it was 84 or 85.
It was 84, 40 million guaranteed.
Yeah. And that's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
To me, I think this is a win now. I think win now scenario for the 49ers. They're just trying to bolster and just become undeniably good on the defensive side of the ball, which they already are, which is crazy.
You're right. They are amazing defensively, but offensively, do you trust Trey Lance to run the show right now?
No.
Brock Purdy, Sam Darnold.
I trust Brock Purdy.
I do trust Brock Purdy a little bit, but the other two, I can't. But you have to think they're going to play Trey Lance, considering the fact they traded up for him and they used a 3rd overall pick on him.
They can't give up on him that easily.
They can't.
I think. Well, now I think that they can't though with Purdy. I mean, they have to give Lance a chance.
Yeah.
The Purdy's hurt. They're not gonna. I doubt Darnold's gonna come in and start unless Trey's that hurt still. So, I think Shanahan's a good enough coach where he can mask a lot of deficiencies. I mean, he did it with Garoppolo, but if the running game's not going, then it's hard. Obviously, his offense is predicated off play action or the run, the zone scheme out there in San Francisco. Who else are you paying? You know, that kind of factors into it. You're not going to pay your quarterback for another 2 to 3 years, depending on who starts for them. You know, Lance, I think Lance is this was his 2nd year. So you have 3 more years. So you really have to give him a contract. And at this point, he hasn't earned a bit of it. You know, McCaffrey's really the only big offensive player on the books. Kittle, maybe, I think probably makes a lot of money, but receiver-wise, Debo makes a lot of money. I think McCaffrey was probably near the end of his deal now from the Panthers.
There's like 2 years left, I think.
2 years.
Okay.
And they just let McGlinchey walk too because he got a bag to play for Denver.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that. That was kind of crazy. I mean, I think that definitely hurts their offensive line. I don't know if he was worth that much. I don't think he was.
I thought he was solid.
Correct. I thought he was solid. I think Orlando Brown's probably better than him. I don't think McGlinchey. I think McGlinchey came in with the Notre Dame hire behind him, the Notre Dame name, and that he was supposed to be this big bad staple offensive Hall of Fame tackle. I think he's just been a guy. I think he's been good. I don't think he's been great. I think he's been elite.
He got $87 million with 50 guaranteed from the Broncos.
Paid him like he was elite.
Yeah.
They really want to protect Russ. Sean Payton's serious about turning that place around.
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to say this about Hargrave, and then I think that will probably do it then. Hargrave, like you said, you don't have to pay your quarterback now, so you got that flexible money. He is a Javon Kinlaw replacement, and Javon Kinlaw was not good at all at stopping the run, and Javon Hargrave is. And if that's the price you got to pay to shore up your defense, then that's what you got to do, because I think it pretty much every other position on defense for the Niners, as long as they're healthy, they were set except for that run-stopping defensive tackle. And now they have that. And at this current moment, I think they probably are the favorites, but so much can change. And I got to see the quarterback situation.
How are they the favorites, Steven? They don't have a quarterback.
Hey, dude, so many people were picking the Niners as like clear favorites there when Brock Purdy took over. So I guess now everyone, right, but still, I still think that defense is elite, and I think a serviceable quarterback can get the job done for them. Now, if Brock Purdy comes back and he's not doing well, of course, then. But to me, as of this moment, I think the Niners probably have the best team, but quarterback's a huge question. They didn't lose a game until the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. The injury is a concern. So much more can change, but I think the Hargrave signing for the Niners probably, in my opinion, is probably a signing of the first day of free agency, unless something happens after we're done recording this podcast.
I think age is the biggest thing that makes it like just not worth how much he is. He's 32.
Correct.
By the time he's
30.
I swear he's 32.
Well, to me,
I know he's 30. He's 30, but still, that's still old.
Maybe they could cut him at 32.
Still, that's a lot of money. 40 mil guaranteed. He's not getting younger. He is not getting younger. But I guess saving grace is they're not paying a quarterback. They're really not. So
they won't have to for a while.
That's the only reason why I don't have too much of a problem with it. But I also don't think they would be paying him $84 million if they did have a quarterback on the books. So I think it's a good move. I don't think it's a signing of the day, but I do think it's a good move for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, guys. Well, we've been talking for a long time. I've had a great time talking to you guys. It's good to be back. To all of our loyal listeners, be on the lookout for more podcasts in the future. Be on the lookout for more content on TikTok, more content on Twitter. We're going to start tweeting more. We got a Cloud Zero Picks that's going to get starting up real soon. A lot of exciting stuff on the way, and we're excited to share it all with you. From me, Steven Sockel, Antonio Del Guzzo, a.k.a. Puggy, Dante Strella, we wish you all a great night or day, depending on when you watch.